The astronomical dials that adorned many of these clocks took this power even further. These were not simple hour indicators, but complex cosmological displays showing the positions of the sun, moon, and stars as understood by medieval astronomy. The famous Prague astronomical clock, installed in 1410, featured a mechanical model of the Ptolemaic universe with Earth at the center and concentric spheres rotating around it. As the clock's gears turned, so did these celestial representations, creating a moving diagram of God's ordered cosmos that anyone could see and understand. When peasants looked up at these dials, they weren't just checking what time it was, they were witnessing a mechanical demonstration of divine order, proof that the universe itself operated according to precise, knowable laws. The mathematics required for these astronomical functions staggered medieval minds. Clockmakers had to calculate gear ratios that would make different dials rotate at different speeds, one for hours, another for days, another matching the lunar month, yet another following the zodiac's yearly cycle. Some clocks featured displays of church feast days, Easter calculations that could predict the date of this movable holiday years in advance. The gearing systems became labyrinths of interconnected wheels, some as small as a bread plate, others larger than cartwheels, all meshing together with tooth counts calculated to mathematical precision that rivaled any other medieval engineering achievement. Yet for all their sophistication, these early clocks were wildly inaccurate by modern standards. The foliot and verge escapement, revolutionary as it was, could lose or gain 15 minutes per day. Temperature changes made metal expand and contract, throwing off the carefully calculated gear ratios. Wear on the gear teeth, friction in the bearings, variations in the weight's descent. All these factors meant that medieval clocks required constant adjustment. Most cathedrals employed a clockkeeper whose full-time job was monitoring and correcting the mechanism, comparing it against sundials on clear days, adjusting the foliot's weights, oiling the gears with animal fat, replacing worn components. This is where AI reconstruction becomes truly invaluable. By modeling these clocks digitally, we can simulate their operation under different conditions, understanding exactly how temperature swings affected their accuracy, how worn gears changed their performance, why certain design choices work better than others. We can run virtual experiments that would be impossible with the fragile surviving clocks, testing modifications medieval craftsmen might have considered, answering questions that have puzzled historians for generations. What would happen if the foliot weights were repositioned? How much force did the falling weight actually exert on the gears? Could these clocks have been made more accurate with the materials and techniques available in the 14th century? The craftsmen who built these machines understood something profound about the universe that we, living in an age of digital precision, sometimes forget. They knew that time is not something that simply exists independently, flowing uniformly like an invisible river. Time is something humans create through measurement, something we construct through agreement and mechanism. Before mechanical clocks, time in London was different from time in Paris, different even from village to village. After mechanical clocks, time became standardized, synchronized, turned into something objective and external that everyone had to obey equally, from peasant to king. This standardization had consequences that rippled through every aspect of medieval life. Merchants could now specify exact hours for business transactions. Craftsmen's guilds could regulate work shifts with precision impossible before. Curfew laws became enforceable. The rhythm of daily life shifted from agricultural patterns tied to daylight and seasons toward an artificial structure imposed by mechanical ticking. Workers began to sell not their labor's products, but their time itself, paid by the hour rather than by the piece. This transformation, starting with bells rung by clockwork in cathedral towers, would eventually lead to the time-based wage labor system that defines modern capitalism. The cathedral clockmakers probably never imagined such consequences. For them, the goal was simpler and more sacred: to honor God by bringing mechanical order to his creation, to demonstrate through metalwork and mathematics that the universe operated according to rational, discoverable principles. These clocks were prayers made tangible, theology expressed through gear ratios, faith translated into the language of levers and weights. When a medieval clockmaker adjusted the escapement to achieve better accuracy, he believed he was coming closer to understanding the mind of God, who had created a cosmos that ran like perfect clockwork. Some of these early clocks still survive, still tick, still ring their bells after 600 years. The Salisbury Cathedral clock, built around 1386, is the oldest working clock in the world, its iron frame and massive wheels still turning as they did when Richard II sat on England's throne. Standing before such a mechanism, even in our age of atomic clocks accurate to nanoseconds, you cannot help but feel awe at what medieval craftsmen achieved. They built machines designed to outlast empires, mechanisms that would measure time long after their makers' names were forgotten, clocks that would ring bells for centuries of births and deaths, wars and weddings, plagues and triumphs. Through AI reconstruction, we can preserve these machines not just as physical artifacts, but as fully understood mechanisms, their every principle analyzed and documented, their operation made transparent in ways the original builders never achieved. We can ensure that even if the last of these ancient clocks someday falls silent, their ingenuity will live on in digital models that can teach future generations how humanity first learned to measure time with mechanical precision. The medieval mechanical clock stands as one of history's transformative inventions, ranking with the printing press and the compass as technologies that fundamentally altered human civilization. It taught us to see time as something measurable, divisible, ownable. It enabled the coordination of complex activities across distances. It made possible the scientific revolution by giving experimenters the ability to measure durations precisely. Every clock in your home, every watch on a wrist, every time stamp on a computer screen traces its ancestry back to those iron frameworks in cathedral towers where falling weights turned gears and foliots swung back and forth, conquering infinity one tick at a time. As we stand now in an age where artificial intelligence helps us reconstruct and understand these medieval marvels, we might ask ourselves, what are we building today that will still be honored 600 years hence? What mechanisms are we creating that future generations will study with the same wonder we feel when contemplating a medieval clock? The monks who wound those weights each day believed they were serving eternity, measuring time in service of the timeless. And perhaps they were right. Perhaps the greatest human achievement is not conquering time, but honoring it, not escaping its passage, but marking it beautifully, mechanically, deliberately, ensuring that every moment counts for something more than itself, that every tick carries forward the accumulated ingenuity of all who came before, each of us another tooth on an endless gear, escaping briefly into motion before we pass the force onward to whoever comes next.